We are talking all things Chops Grill. As you know, Chops Grill is Royal Caribbean's cruise line signature steakhouse, and I think there's some things you need to know. So in this video, I'm going to be glancing down here because I do, of course, have my notes. I don't want to leave anything out. So we're going to be talking about cost, food selection, scheduling, the ambiance, the extras. There are always extras and things you, of course, didn't plan for. So let's jump into it. So off the top, cost. So when you're talking about cost for Chops Grill, it's going to be under two categories. First one is for lunch. The second one is for dinner. Most folks will tend to go for the dinner option, which is in and around $65 per person. Now, if you want to experience Chops, but you do want it to be of that lesser price point, check out the lunch options. The lunch options are going to be around $29 per person. Now, if you want to even chop that down a bit further, make sure you tap into the pre-cruise savings. Now, pre-cruise savings, I've seen like 5%, 10%, 15% off those numbers that I just gave you for estimated costs. The only hack with pre-cruise savings is that the rates do change. The percentages that you can save do change. So one scenario or two scenarios that can happen is, one, you book it and then you find pre-cruise savings comes upon later on. You can rebook it, repurchase it, make your selection, and then cancel your first one to ensure that you do have it, and then you get the difference, obviously the discounted rate. So that is one way to do it. Another way to do it is to wait until you see pre-cruise savings for a percentage that you're happy with, and then book it and then move on. So that is that piece, but those are in and around the estimate of what those cost. Now, when we're talking about food selection as compared to the complimentary items that are going to be available on the ship, especially those on the Lido deck, you do see the premium quality and the fine diningness of going for the specialty dining. That is something that you definitely can see both in the presentation, the ambiance we're going to talk about in a moment there, and of course just the overall quality and experience of specialty dining. Now, with that being said, in the selection, you don't necessarily want it to just be steak, even though it's a steakhouse. Keep in mind when you're going out, you're going to be going out either with your friends, your colleagues, and everybody doesn't always want the same thing. So what I can say is I will try to drop in or add just a general kind of guide on what the menu was at the time that I went to Chops Grill, just to give you an idea of what was what. But they did have shrimp, some tuna tartare, crab cake. Here, soups and salad. The wild mushroom soup was absolutely phenomenal. They also had the lobster bisque. Now, so here's the thing about cruising and lobster bisque and certain specialty items. They, both Royal Caribbean and Carnival, something with the lobster bisque. It doesn't usually have lobster in it. Carnival's Steakhouse, of course, is Fahrenheit 555. I will have a review coming up for Fahrenheit soon if that's something you're interested in. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell notification so you're notified when I have a future upload. But with the lobster bisque, sometimes it's usually like a seafood medley. So there's like a little bit of shrimp, a little bit of, crab, a little bit of other items there, and then it will have the sauce to complement. Now, if you do have questions about any of the items that you see on the menu, usually the folks that are working the specialty dining are working specifically that dining room for a reason. So they are familiar with the menu, they are familiar with the items. Same thing if you have an allergy, they can work with you to, of course, be able to accommodate the allergy or recommend certain dishes that either do have this, don't have that, to be able to avoid maybe certain things on the menu or certain things that are not in your preference. So that is something to, of course, keep in mind. With the meats, they did have, of course, the fillets. They had the prime rib, the strip, and rack of lamb, and also chicken, lobster. Lobster is usually an add-on even for the specialty dining. Usually you can go and do an additional, add-on for certain items, and usually lobster is one of them. With the sides, pretty much the breakdown was you get an appetizer, you get a main, and then you get a side. Now, I did have a few folks at my party request for 2 sides, and they were able to accommodate that, no problem. But if that's something that you're interested in, work with your server, and they will be able to work with you and give you the information or guidance as well. Now, with the sides are typically going to be in a shareable portion type fashion, almost like an a la carte. Think like Ruth Chris or Morton's, if you will, if you're familiar with either of those restaurants. They do pretty much, you order everything a la carte, and this is kind of the same vibe. So if you are going and you're looking to do something, or you want to try a little bit of this, that, and the third, the servers may offer that, hey, how about we have 6 or 8 different sides. There are, 6 to 8 of you. We'll bring out a little, we'll bring out all of the sides that you guys can kind of sample and share. So that's another way to be able to go through and try different things on the menu without, of course, ordering a variety of other items on the menu. Scheduling. So with the scheduling, again, specialty dining is very different from that of complimentary, and they do fill up fast. So scheduling is going to be based on, of course, the lunch selection area and the dinner selection area. So when you come in, of course, you have your days that you're going to cruise. Usually the lunch is not going to be available for the first day. When you on the embarkation day, dinner will be available. And then on your disembarkation, when you leave, lunch sometimes will be available depending on the time that the cruise is supposed to come in, but dinner will not be because you'll be off cruise. So that depends. Now, when you're coming in, one thing I will say for the scheduling is it's a first come, first serve. So when you're coming in, one, do the pre-cruise savings, but also you have to go in there and select the time. The tricky thing about it is you want to select it at a time that's perhaps convenient for everybody in your party, but something that doesn't exactly conflict with other things on your calendar. I do like how Royal Caribbean has it set up. Pretty much everything you book is calendar based, so you're able to go book, and then as I say, your spouse or your other family members or folks in your cabin or other folks that you're traveling with go through and book. You're able to see their bookings on the calendar. You may not be able to make modifications to the booking. You'd have to be the original booker to be able to make modifications to the booking, quote. But you can't see, oh, my, spouse has, a spot this time and not able to book, a lunch, or my, sibling has, this booked it. So you're able to book it via the calendar. With that being said, there are thousands on the ship. There are thousands of people on the ship. So the problem is the closer and closer you get to the cruise date to leave, the fewer and fewer selections that are going to be available to work with, so to speak. So if you want to do specialty dining, decide that sooner rather than later. Now, with the scheduling piece, don't book it on the first night or book it on the last night. So I myself, this is a huge mistake, and I myself have fallen into this on the first night for specialty dining. It's a no. The first night, the last night, there's just way too much going on, but more specifically on the first night when you get in the day of for the embarkation. Basically, as you know, you get into the embarkation process, you get on the ship, if you haven't already downloaded the app, go through, you're kind of learning the lay of the land. One thing I would say as a tip, typically you're able to see the kind of like cruise plan, floor plan on the app. So definitely, of course, download the app, do your check-in and everything. You should be doing that through the app long before your embarkation day. So as long as you do that, there's a section where you have ship maps. Go through the ship map so you can see where everything is, and that definitely helps you navigate, of course, your specialty dining restaurants, where certain things are, where you're going to be going. And for your embarkation day, it will save you a lot of time. Now, with that being said, you come on for your embarkation, and then you have 2 to 3 hours or so while you're kind of roaming around, before the room is ready, right? So typically people flock to the Lido. That's what happens. People flock to the Lido. People roam around. It's a great time to do like your spa. If you haven't done any spa bookings or any other thing that you're interested in booking that you couldn't do, or you had to wait till you got on the ship to be able to book, it's a great time to do that because you can't really do much else. And of course, make your plans for the evening for night 1. Now, here was the mistake with specialty dining. Specialty dining, you have that 2 to 3 hour window before your room is ready. Then you'll have, an individual will come over or typically it's the cruise director, but an individual will come over the speaker. They'll say, hey, your rooms are ready. They'll either do 1, tell everybody that their room is ready and they're good to go, or they're going to do 2, hey, if your room is on this floor to this floor, you can go to your room. Next announcement, this floor to this floor, go to your room. Go to your room. Check the room out. Everything is everything. Anything additional you need, maybe you're able to see the room stored or be able to see, the stores for the first night. And at that point in time, you see you don't have your luggage yet. So here's what taps into the next issue. Luggage continues to come to your rooms throughout pretty much that night until nightfall. And you don't know when it's going to come. It doesn't exactly have a tracker. There's a lot of things that happen on the back end through screening, make sure the luggage is safe to be able to come on to also get onto the ship. And through that process, you're kind of waiting. The issue was we had specialty dining lined up and we didn't have our luggage. Now, the other piece with specialty dining is there is usually a dress code. So some cruises are more, strict about it than others, but this is definitely one of those for specialty dining. You cannot show up in, bathing suit, shorts, and flip-flops and all of that. That is a no. And it is at the restaurant's discretion to refuse you seating. Even if you pre-booked, prepaid everything, they can't refuse you seating because you're not dressed appropriately. That's just the, nonchalant of the whole experience, if you will. And in that, if you book on the first night, you're more apt to find that. Thankfully, in our situation, we got it like kind of just in the nick of time kind of deal, but it ended up leading to a lot of rushing. So it was like, to rush to get changed, we have to rush to, do this part. We had to, we got to the room, then we had to find a room. We found a room, didn't have the luggage, got the luggage. It just becomes a big like, bleh. And it's just not something that's enjoyable. So it's not something I would recommend. Now, similarly situated on the back end of your cruise the last day. It's a luggage issue. So same thing, you want to go, you want to do your dining, but that's also going to be the time that you're going to be needing to utilize to pack, get your luggage together, to put it out front in the hall for the porter to be able to help assist you to be able to get it off the ship. Now, if you decide that you're going to do the self-assist or you're going to do the walk-off, maybe this doesn't apply to you, and maybe the last night you want to do your fine dining, or at least one of your fine dining nights, and that's fine. But for the majority of folks, you will see as you go through the halls on the cruise ship, day one, and of course, getting off, most people want porter assistance. It's just way too much to deal with, and then especially when you're going to do the self-assist, usually the elevators and things of that nature are locked up, so you're going to have to do a lot of stairs with what can be heavy luggage, which ultimately just becomes very, very difficult. So with that being said, don't book it on the first night, don't book it on the last night. Now, when we tap into the ambiance, so the ambiance for CHOPS is absolutely gorgeous. Again, what I would say is it wasn't quite dimly lit, but it was dimly lit, that steakhouse vibe, but not quite as dim as, let's say, a Ruth Chris. So just to give you an idea, the night that we had gone for CHOPS, it was later. It was around 8:30-ish time. So it was a little later, so it wasn't full. The dining room wasn't full. And where we were, since we were coming out of Alaska base, it was still like daylight outside. So those kind of scenarios don't usually come together quite often. So there was that piece. The staff there were super, super friendly, super nice. I actually ended up having to reschedule this particular reservation for CHOPS due to other excursions and other things that had to be planned. I ended up requiring myself to change the time frame, and they were super understanding, super flexible about it. They said, sure, these are the times you have available. Does this work for your schedule? We said yes. We were able to go in and rebook it, and it was not an issue. So that is something to keep in mind. Extras. So extras come up, and typically people don't like to hear about extras, especially after you've already pre-booked, prepaid for your stuff. Here's the deal with extras. We're going to talk about two things for extras. First thing for extras are pictures. So I myself, for this particular cruise as well, did purchase the picture package. Now, understand the picture package that you purchase for Royal Caribbean, just through the cruise line, is different, and it has nothing to do with specialty dining. I absolutely didn't know that myself until running into the situation. Now, I share this with you here because here you'll even see this has here CHOPS Grill. It has this cute little cow charm on there, and it's heavy. It's actually, it looks like a key ring. This does come off and separate. I'd probably just leave it on there just because it's cute. But it has that CHOPS Grill, and then it also has engraved in the back, if you can see it there, also CHOPS Grill. On the back here, you will also see that is the Royal Caribbean information there, and a physical person comes over to the table, a photographer, and they say, hey, would you like to take your pictures? We say, sure. They go through, they take your pictures, and then they come through and they have a bunch of the prints. So in the print situation here, this is one of the photos I will share with you. Here, this is myself and my brother here for CHOPS. It comes in this folio. You do get to select the kind of folio there. Of course, the size of the picture. They did have canvas options, different options, depending on the variety of what you wanted to do, whether they wanted to be seated at the table or, with different backgrounds somewhere else in the CHOPS restaurant. That was up to you as well. But the kick to it is this is separate. So photographer comes over, they ask to take the pictures, they take the pictures, and then at that point in time, they come over and they will bring you like proofs. So the proofs are going to be separate from your photo account, your photo focus. are going to be separate from your photo focus account. So those pictures will never come up in your photo focus account for what you've paid for like your picture package. At that point in time, you say, they give you the pricing and you say, okay, I want to select X number of photos based upon the pricing that they give you. And then you pay right then and there with your sale and sign card or quote your CPass card, and then they put it in the folios for you, and then they divvy them or give them to you accordingly. So that is, quote, in my opinion, an extra. That's not really something that's talked about or something that you would know about unless you kind of fall into that scenario. So that is that piece. Now the second thing that comes up that's an extra are drinks. So drinks is another add-on that comes. Of course, you can't purchase a drink package. I did find for the variety of specialty dining options that we did stop by and looked at, the soda package was like standard. They said, hey, you have the soda package, we'll apply soda package, no problem. There were certain kind of like hybrid drinks that are also like carbonated, like soda drinks. Those typically don't fall under the soda package. Usually that comes in as an extra fee. I did find that some servers were aware of that, other servers weren't. So there was like oh yes, this is covered in your plan. Then they came back and said, oh no, it's not covered in your plan, but then I told you it was covered in your plan, so I'll cover it. So that kind of piece was a little disjointed. What I can say for the alcoholic beverages is, for specialty dining, most of those items are done by the bottle. So you would have to then purchase and pay for the bottle. It wouldn't be like per wine glass or per drink that you get, as in we're outside, we're literally outside the specialty dining door on the cruise ship. You're able to then go and get the, go pick up a drink, go pick up, a glass of this or a glass of that, and it would be, quote, covered under your alcoholic beverage package, if you will, for drinks. So that is something to be mindful of, because, some bottles of wine and other, alcoholic pieces can be quite pricey. And the challenge of it, more or less, if you will, is if you've already paid for the, quote, alcohol package or the, drink package that includes alcohol, or if you just paid for a soda package, you're expecting, your soda to be included in the soda package, or your alcohol to be included in the alcohol package. You're not looking for or expecting an additional fee, or charge to be billed to your sale and sign pass or your CPass, if you will, since you feel that you've already covered that. So that is an extra that may come up during your specialty dining. Alright, definitely let me know what you think of Chops Grill. I definitely enjoyed the food. I felt the selection was phenomenal. The quality of food was phenomenal. The service was phenomenal. Definitely anything you need or want to know, leave those in the comment section below. I am curious, have you been to Chops, or have you been on the other side, Fahrenheit? What do you think? Is one better than the other? Leave it all down there below if you're interested. And of course, future content like that, don't forget to hit that bell button, subscribe, and I will see you folks on the next one. Bye.